I picked him up because I thought he was stranded, but by the time I hit the next curve, the back seat was empty. I work nights as a delivery driver. Most of my routes stick to well-lit city streets, but every now and then, dispatch sends me out on the rural highways, long, dark stretches where it's just you, the road, and the occasional thought you wish you didn't have. One late autumn night, I was sent down Highway 217, a two-lane road that cuts through miles of farmland and thick forest. I'd driven it before, but never after midnight. It was around 1 a.m. The moon was hidden behind heavy clouds, and the air felt different, thicker. The only light came from my high beams and the occasional green flash of mile markers. I was halfway through a lukewarm coffee when I saw it. Mile marker 46, and just past it, a man. He was standing on the shoulder, thumb pointed toward the road. His head tilted down so the collar of his jacket hid most of his face. His clothes looked decades out of place. Brown jacket, dark slacks, leather shoes scuffed to a dull gray. His posture wasn't just tired. It was wrong. Like he'd been standing there for hours without shifting his weight. The cold air caught his breath in little clouds that drifted sideways in the wind. Even from a distance, I thought I could see a faint damp shine on his shoes. And where he stood, the asphalt looked darker, like it had soaked up water that wasn't on the rest of the road. I almost drove past, but something about the way he just faced the darkness made me slow down. I eased off the gas. The temp outside was just above freezing, and leaving someone stranded out here didn't sit right. As my headlights hit him, he lifted his head slightly, not enough to show his full face, just enough for me to catch a pale cheek and the glisten of damp hair. I rolled the passenger window halfway down. "Need a ride?" He didn't answer. Just opened the back door and slid in, sitting directly behind me. The seatbelt clicked. In the mirror, he stared straight ahead, hands resting loosely in his lap, completely still, too still. "Where you headed?" I asked. A pause. Then, in a flat, almost emotionless voice, "Just a few miles ahead." The moment he spoke, I noticed the faint fogging on the rear passenger window. The heater was blasting in the front, but that single pane looked like someone had just breathed on it. We drove in silence. Out here, every little noise felt louder. The hum of the tires, the faint buzz from the dash lights, my own breathing. Once or twice, I thought I heard the faint creak of the seat springs behind me, as if he shifted his weight. But every time I glanced up, he was in the exact same position. My eyes kept catching the dark outline of his head in the mirror, and each time, my brain insisted he'd move just a little closer to the glass. Outside, the trees looked like a single wall of black. The occasional branch reflecting in the side window made me think something was keeping pace with us. And then, something else. A smell. Faint, but sharp enough to notice. Damp earth, wet soil after rain. It wasn't horrible, but it didn't belong inside my car. I glanced in the mirror again. Droplets clung to the sleeves of his jacket, catching the glow from the dashboard. But his hands, perfectly dry. Then I saw it. He was leaning toward the window, his lips moving silently, like he was whispering to something out there in the tree line. We were maybe 4 or 5 minutes in when we hit a slow bend. My headlights swept across the dense wall of forest. Some instinct made me check the mirror again. The back seat was empty. My foot hit the brakes. The dome light came on. Nothing. No open door. No sound. Just 2 faint, dark patches on the seat where he'd been, like the fabric had soaked up water. I pulled over, stepped out. The cold hit me instantly. The road stretched empty in both directions. No cars, no movement. I stood there, listening. Somewhere behind me, faint and muffled, I thought I heard a splash, like someone stepping into a shallow puddle. I walked toward it. Nothing. The rest of the drive into town felt longer than it should have. I didn't look in the mirror again. The next morning, I stopped at a diner off the highway. The waitress was friendly, the kind who talks while topping off your coffee. I mentioned picking up a man near mile marker 46, who vanished before the next turn. Her smile faded. "Mile marker 46?" she asked. I nodded. "That's where it happened. Early 2000s. Guy's car broke down. Tried to walk home, but a truck hit him. They didn't find him until morning. His shoes were caked in mud, like he'd been walking through a swamp. That smell from last night hit me all over again." She leaned in a little. "You're not the first. Some drivers say they've picked him up too. Always past the marker. Never makes it to the next town." I left with my coffee, telling myself I'd imagined it. Maybe he got out quietly. Maybe I was just tired, but the explanation never felt right. 2 weeks later, I was back on Highway 217, same route. I promised myself I wouldn't slow down near that marker. When the green sign came into view, there was no one there. But the air in the car shifted. The smell of damp earth came back. Faint, but there. My hands tightened on the steering wheel without me realizing. The closer I got, the more I felt like my car had shrunk. Darkness pressing against the glass. I kept my eyes forward, but my peripheral vision swore the shadows along the tree line were thicker, leaning in. Even the sound of my own engine seemed quieter, like the air was swallowing it. Somewhere beneath that hum, I thought I heard something else. Faint, steady, and too slow to be mine. Breathing. For maybe 2 seconds. The red glow of my taillights didn't seem to hit the pavement at all, like the road itself had been swallowed by the dark. Then the light returned, but my pulse didn't slow. The radio gave a soft crackle, not quite static, not a voice, just wrong. I passed the marker and let out a breath. That's when I caught it in the mirror. For a split second, the reflection behind me seemed darker, like my taillights weren't reaching as far. And in that darkness, something pale. Maybe a shoulder, maybe nothing, tilted forward as if watching the road. A faint click, the sound a seatbelt makes, followed by the lightest pressure against my seat and a soft rustle of fabric. I didn't turn around. Some passengers never leave your car. They just wait for the next ride. The exit ramp should have taken me off the highway, but every time I turned onto it, I ended up right back where I started. I drive nights for work. Small freight, documents, replacement parts. It's quiet, and the miles go by faster when the world feels paused. One Thursday in late winter, I was southbound on I-57 just past midnight. The air outside was knife cold, the kind that made the breath inside your car feel heavier. Frost shimmered on the shoulder, and my eyes burned from hours of driving. I needed a break when the green sign appeared out of the dark. Exit 21, Service Plaza, 1 mile. I clicked on my blinker and took the ramp. It curved off the main line, guardrail flashing white, then amber, the rhythm hypnotic. My tires hummed over expansion joints, the sound shifting as I neared the merge. Only when I merged, I wasn't on a new road. I was back. Same stretch, same bent reflector post on the right. Same seam in the asphalt dead center of my lane. My blinker was still ticking. As if mocking me, I shook it off, probably a weird loop road I didn't notice. Half a mile later, another sign, Exit 21 Service Plaza 1-2 mile. I slowed, scanning for a real split this time. Guardrail, asphalt, no plaza lights, no buildings, just the curve, then the merge. And again, same bent reflector, same seam, same frost patterns catching my headlights. The third time felt different. The first reflector was gone. The second was dented. The amber posts looked faded, some chipped. As I took the curve, a sudden push of wind hit the passenger side, sharp and deliberate, like passing a truck, except there was nothing there. For a split second, the wind carried a faint smell, damp earth mixed with something metallic, like wet rust. My fingers tightened on the wheel. The heater hummed, but the air on my face felt colder, like it was leaking from somewhere inside. At the merge, a squat sign half buried in frost flickered in my peripheral vision. 21A or 21L. The paint was peeling, the letters just warped enough to make me doubt my own reading. And then, I was back again. I told myself I'd skip it from now on. But when Service Plaza next right flashed by, with an odd right-angle arrow instead of the usual curve, the road still peeled away into blackness, slow and patient. My hands tightened on the wheel. In the passenger window, a faint oval of mist bloomed, as if someone had leaned close, breathed, and turned away. My heater was on low. The vent wasn't pointing there. I kept going, the road dipped and rose. My taillights painted the markers orange as they passed. But when I checked my mirror, the ramp behind me looked longer, like it still hadn't fully let go. The radio crackled, a thin, brittle sound, like ice snapping underfoot. Not static, not a voice. I turned it down. Another sign appeared, Hollow Ridge Service. The font was wrong, letters spaced too far apart, the green a shade too dark. No mileage listed. I passed it, but the next sign was stranger, just exit, no number. Leaning slightly, the edges rippled like they'd been heat-warped. The ramp peeled away again. This time, I saw them, 3 or 4 figures along the outer guardrail, too far to make out details, too still to be people braving that cold. They didn't cluster, just stood, spaced evenly. One raised a hand slowly to shoulder height, held it, then lowered it. For a moment, I thought I saw condensation hanging in the air around them, like each one was exhaling in slow motion. But the wind never touched it. Their outlines didn't move, didn't sway, just waited. I kept my eyes forward. When the ramp disappeared behind, my mirror showed nothing but black. I promised myself, next time I see Exit 21, I'll find one with a town name and take it. Overhead signs bloomed green in my beams. One blank. One Exit 21, Service Plaza. One next right, tucked too close to the edge. The blinker clicked on, by itself. The ramp opened. White, white, amber, amber, faded yellow. The same push of wind pressed the passenger side, then eased. This time, I let the car drift right. Not because it pulled, just because my hands slackened, like they knew the way. The merge didn't lead to the highway. Instead, a narrow, unmarked road stretched ahead. No shoulder lines. Reflectors at odd intervals. The asphalt was rougher, almost like it hadn't been paved in years. My headlights seemed weaker here, like the blacktop was swallowing the light. The darkness on either side felt closer. thick enough that I imagined if I rolled the window down, it would press in like fog. The air inside the car cooled. My breath ghosted faintly, though the heater dial hadn't moved. 20 yards ahead stood a frost-covered sign. I stopped. Through the misted passenger window, I thought I saw the faint outline of a face angled toward the ramp, then turning away. The movement was slow enough that I couldn't decide if it had happened at all. I eased forward until my headlights lit the sign. You are here. No arrow, no map, just block letters. Behind me came a light click, like a seatbelt buckle being tested in the dark. I didn't look back. Somewhere far ahead, beyond the dark guardrail, a single pair of taillights slid by in the far lane and vanished into the curve. The narrow road began to loop toward the highway. For a second, the asphalt hummed a different note under my tires. Lower, almost like a voice too soft to make out. When I merged, it was into the same stretch I knew. Bent reflector, seam in the asphalt, frost glinting like nothing had changed. The next half hour was silent. No signs, no exits, just road. My shoulders ached from keeping my hands tight on the wheel. Every now and then, in the mirror, I swore I caught a faint glint, like the start of a guardrail, before the black swallowed it. I counted down the miles until the next major interchange. When the green sign finally appeared, relief came too fast. So fast that I almost didn't notice. The small oval mist on the passenger glass had returned. Only this time, it was lower. Like whoever had breathed there was sitting further back. I didn't take another exit for 30 miles. Some roads don't want you to leave. They wait until you're tired and find their own way back to you. I know the Hollow Ridge Overpass has been closed for years. So why were the lights on? And why did I feel like someone was standing above my lane? I deliver industrial parts across 3 counties, mostly at night. One stretch I can't avoid is the Hollow Ridge Overpass, a short farm bridge that used to cross the highway. It's been closed since 2015 after a truck clipped a pier. Both ends are fenced. The chain link sags and weeds shove through the mesh. Most nights it's just a dark shape overhead, until the night it wasn't. The first time, the air was damp and cool, the kind that makes your jacket feel thinner than it is. Mist hugged the asphalt and stayed low, so my high beams carved a narrow tunnel, and everything outside blurred to gray. The hum of my tires was the only sound, until I hit a seam in the pavement. A soft hiss, then silence again. My lights washed over a mile marker, then something new, an old yellow glow above the highway. It came from the overpass, not a flicker, not a cruise strobe, just steady sodium, like a lamp behind frosted glass. The glow didn't hang in one spot. It bled upward into the mist and tinted it amber, as if the bridge were breathing warm into cold air. I eased off the gas. A semi roared by in the opposite lanes. The sound stretched thin and died. No arrow boards, no work trucks, no cones, just the bridge and that wrong-colored light. By the next mile marker, the glow was gone. Black trees. Empty sky. I told myself it was maintenance, but I kept checking the mirror like the light could follow me. 2 nights later, I ran the same route. The fog was thicker, pooling in low spots, swallowing the shoulder lines until the white paint just stopped. My wipers brushed off condensation that shouldn't have been there. The span ahead was dark. Then, tick. Something small hit my hood. A second later, Another tick, softer, like a pebble dropped from arm's length. Under the bridge, the air felt sharper, colder. Out of the corner of my eye, a thin oval of fog bloomed on the upper edge of the windshield. It held for 3 beats, then cleared, as if someone had leaned in, breathed once, and turned away. No drips, no debris, nothing in the mirror but fog and blacktop sliding behind me. I told myself air does odd things under concrete, but my shoulders stayed tight for 2 miles. A week later, the mist was heavier, the kind you can feel in your teeth. At 200 yards, the overpass took shape. Rails, fence, a low wall of concrete. And someone was there. A figure stood near the center, just left of my lane. Still, facing away, jacket hanging straight down, waiting. I eased off the throttle. Tire noise swelled against the quiet. As I passed under, tick, something tapped the hood. A breath of fabric followed. Not from inside the cabin, not from the vents, from above me. The oval fog mark bloomed again, same place, same size. I glanced up. Nothing but the underside of the deck. In the mirror, the figure was gone, or the fog hid them. I pressed the gas and didn't slow until my chest loosened. A few nights later, I stopped at Harper's Diner off Route 86. The overnight waitress knows me by now. When I mentioned Hollow Ridge, she lifted a brow. "You see the lights?" she asked. "First night," I said. "Not since." She nodded. "My brother swears he saw them too. Looked like the old lamps they pulled years ago. Thing is, the county shut that bridge after the accident. They cut the power. Nobody's supposed to be up there." She topped off my coffee and left it at that. 10 days later, I crossed in daylight for the first time in a while. The overpass looked exactly like a closed bridge should. Rust scabs, chalked concrete, fence stitched with fresh wire that didn't quite line up. A faded county sign still clung to the mesh. Road closed. I slowed anyway. Nothing glowed. No one stood on the rail. Just a broken shape over the road. That night, the fog was back. No light this time. Half a mile out, I leveled my speed and kept both hands where they belong. The bridge rose out of the white. Under the span, a soft rustle slid across the roof. 2 quick ticks hit the hood like taps. The oval printed on the glass again, precise as aim. My pulse thumped in my palms. I didn't check the mirror. The pressure in my chest stayed until the fog thinned. Clear night next time. Stars between thin clouds. Air dry enough to scratch your throat. I almost let myself believe Hollow Ridge would stay just a bridge. Then my high beams picked up something draped over the railing, long, thin, like a coat left to dry. As I neared, it lifted a little. There was no wind. Passing under, tick, dead center on the roof. The oval mark lingered. 5 beats. 6. It didn't fade until I was a quarter mile past. When I finally looked back, I caught a faint, warm glow at the top of the bridge. Then the dark swallowed it. After that, I stopped looking up when I pass Hollow Ridge. I don't check the fence anymore. I watch the lane, the seams, the hands on my wheel. But I always check the mirror. Because sometimes the bridge looks a little too occupied for a place that's been closed nearly a decade. Daylight proves the facts. Fence up, sign posted, no access. Night proves something else. The lane feels narrower under the bridge and opens back up after, like the world pinches for a second and lets go. On good nights, the overpass is just a dead span throwing extra shade. On others, a light burns where no one wired it, a sound taps roof metal, and a fog oval curves on glass in the shape of someone leaning close, watching the same road I am. So I keep the route. I keep the mirror set. I keep my speed steady. I don't look straight up. I don't slow down. If the mark appears, I let the defroster take it. If the tick comes, I let it be a pebble. If a shadow lives on the rail for a second, I let it be nothing and watch the lane. I don't think Hollow Ridge wants anything from me, except the same thing it wanted before it closed. Traffic that passes under and doesn't stop. Maybe the light is a habit. Maybe the breath is a warning. Maybe the tick is a knock on a door that isn't there anymore. Whatever it is, it waits over concrete and meets me where the highway narrows. Some places don't ask you to believe anything. They just wait for the one night you're too tired to argue,